Never start a development project without a construction contract. My name is Ritchie Clapson, I'm a chartered structural engineer and I've been involved in the property industry now for over 40 years. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you why you should never, ever start a project without a construction contract in place. Now, beyond getting a contract in place is getting a contract in place the right way. So let's first of all never start without getting a contract in place. Now, you can actually say a handshake is a contract. So you could actually get a contractor, you could shake their hand and they could start your contract. They could start your project. They could start your development. And that is a contract as law would see it. But it's not a very good contract, is it? Because what if the contractor starts building something that you didn't expect? You go, hey, hang on a minute, that's not what I expected. That's not what's in the contract. What, in the handshake? How do you define what was in the handshake? You were just going to work together. You know, that's what you thought was happening. Oh, that's what he thought was happening. They're going to be two very, very different things. So a contract, first of all, has to define what is expected. What's expected by both parties? Because this is a two-way street. Oh, I thought you were going to pay me weekly. No, I was only going to pay you monthly. Oh, no, I want weekly. Imagine that. You know, oh, I thought you were going to pay me up front. No, I was going to pay you in arrears. Oh, no, I want payment up front. Everything needs to be in the contract. What are you expecting in your project? Right the way down to, well, I want a bit of skirting board. Well, there is a bit of skirting board. Yeah, but that's a horrible bit. That's a bit of ball nose, 90 millimeter high. I wanted a nice sort of ornate skirting board, 150. Well, you never said that. That kitchen looks horrible. I wanted granite worktops. You've done laminate. Well, they're granite lookalike. You never said granite, you just said granite style. They are granite style, but they're laminate, but you never said. Could you imagine how out of hand a contract could get? How that argument could go on, and how much time that would involve you? So first of all, a contract needs to be fully detailed. It needs to specify everything you want, right the way down to the type of paint. So you might say white emulsion on the walls, but what white emulsion? Is it the basic white emulsion or is it a Dulux trade emulsion? You know, maybe you're going to specify the brand. Maybe even the number of hinges on the door or the type of handles that you're going to put. So everything needs to be specified. And when you fully specify, that can be put into a contract. Now, the other side of the contract is all the relevant clauses, all the relevant working clauses, the payment clauses, dispute clauses. Is there going to be a dispute? Often there is. What about the timing clauses? What about anything else that could come up along the way? What about insurances? What are they supposed to have in place? What about security of the site? What about the identified personnel? Everything needs to go into a contract. Now, the industry does have recognized contracts. One of the most renowned and most famous probably is the JCT, Joint Contracts Tribunal. And it's a contract which is fair to both parties. It's pretty fair to contractors and it's pretty fair to developers. So you definitely want to have a contract in place, and I would strongly recommend the JCT style of contract. It's a very easy document to understand, but it's a document that's going to have to be put together properly and professionally. But it is a document that would define all of the process, all of the engagement, all of the working arrangements, and attach to it all of the specification and detail that you expect as a developer from your contractor. Equally, it can say what the contractor expects from you in terms of payment plan, in terms of your ability to instruct or not instruct, your ability to turn up on site or not turn up on site. That's a big one. So many new developers think, I just go to site when I want. Not when the contractor's on site, it's the contractor's site. They've got to ensure health and safety. You just can't turn up when you want. There is protocol, there is procedures, as I say, for instructions and everything. So a properly defined, properly written, carefully written JCT contract is good for everyone. But written by who? And I remember recently, probably last year sometime, had a new student come to me. I work with a lot of brand new people that want to get into development that's never done it before. But equally, I also work with a lot of existing developers who are out there developing, perhaps never been formally trained and want to develop it better. Well, this is one such student that came to me and they said, I've got a project running. I'm already on my first project, so I know quite a bit about development, but I do feel I'm missing some stuff. I said, okay, no problem at all. And they said, can you train me? Can you work me? I said, definitely can. They said, but I have a few questions on my current project. No problem at all. How can I help you with that? They said, well, the problem is the contractors get a little bit out of control. The contractors keeps coming up for extras, and I don't know how to sort that out. I said, okay, what about your project manager? Yeah, I don't have a project manager in place. I'm managing it myself. Well, that's, I tell you, a discussion for another video. I'll do that one on another time. But didn't have a project manager. Well, that's a definite no-no. You've got to have one of them in place. And then I said, well, what about the contractual arrangements? Yes, he said, we've got a contract. I said, but what sort of contract you've got? He said, I know what you're going to say, JCT, Joint Contracts Tribunal. I said, yeah, have you got one of those? He went, yes. I said, but you haven't got a project manager. Who wrote the contract? He said, the contractor. The contractor wrote the contract. He said he would be fine. I said, so let me get this straight. The contractor wrote his own contract to work with you. Yeah. I said, that's crazy. I said, that's like going for a job interview and saying, yeah, I'm quite interested in the job. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send in my own contract for you to sign later. It doesn't work like that. And so the contractor was all over him. It was his own fault. He got himself in a position where the contractor wrote his own terms and conditions. That's not the way to do it. Definitely not. So you can see the importance here. It's not just about having a contract, it's who's going to write the contract. And who should write the contract? Your project manager. Your project manager, your cost consultant, which are often one and the same on a small-scale development project. They should put together the JCT contract, or similar contracts are available for the relationship and the engagement between you as the developer and the contractor. It should be fully defined. It should have an attached form of project details, drawings and specifications, but that whole contract should be written fairly to actually make sure any instructions or disputes or any claims for extras or any payment plans are fully defined. So as you can see, JCT contracts or contracts overall are absolutely important. In fact, they're imperative, but equally, who writes them is as important as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's a mistake now that you won't have to go and make. And please, as always, if you like what we do, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.